Well, and the CBO, Paul Ryan talks about the growth of the program. The CBO projects that as a share of GDP, it'll be back to 1995 levels in about 6 years, right? As we get through the worst effects of the Great Recession, people get back into the labor market. But there's a broader issue here, I think, about the way that we think about income support for people at the bottom of the social hierarchy and the economic pyramid, which is we have moved towards programs like the Earned Income Tax Credit, the way that TANF now works, and SNAP, which are ways to essentially subsidize the working poor so that they can have essentially enough to just barely get by while working. And it strikes me as that's a sort of dystopic vision of the future in which there's a huge class of people who are making not enough money to actually subsist on. The only thing that gets them actually to subsistence level is a government subsidy that makes up the gap.
And not only that, we're subsidizing the corporations who pay them. It's a wage subsidy. Right. So, you know, the corporations would have to pay more together. We should be raising the minimum wage, and we should be insisting that Americans who work for a living get paid a decent wage for that work.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else you're supposed to do about growing inequality. I mean, the reason that you have wage inequality is that you have different productivity levels, and you have growing gaps in inequality because the economy is changing in ways such that the returns to labor are just getting bigger and bigger for people at the top.
It's a much more complicated story.
But this is a big part of the story, and one of the key things the government can do to alleviate inequality in that situation is transfer payments.
Right.
So, yes, this is a concern. It's actually a concern more often voiced on the right, that you have a growing class of people who are living and requiring government subsidies in order to be able to support themselves at a level that is deemed by society to be a sufficient level.
There are a lot of things you can do about inequality, though. You can have a more progressive income tax. You can make access to higher education more affordable. I mean, there are just endless numbers of things that you can do about inequality.
Here, just in terms of, to reaffirm this point about inequality, this is the income gains during the recovery, in the first year of the recovery, we should say, not the entire recovery, but we have the data for the first year. 93% of all the income gains in the first year of the recovery went to the top.
I like how it looks like Pac-Man.
That is so sick. That is 93% of all income gains go to the top 1%. That should be hammered home to Americans. I mean, pound.
And during the recession, what we saw with our minority communities was that within the African-American community, wealth plummeted 53%, Latino 66%, and then within those communities, wealth is becoming more skewed. So this isn't just a problem. This is a problem that keeps growing.
There's basically no wealth in the African-American community. I think the median is something like $2,200. If you have $2,200 and your car breaks down, your wealth is, or something happens to the roof of your home, your wealth is gone.
One of the proposed changes to SNAP from the Republicans is to put in an asset test so that if you have any money in the bank or a certain amount of money in the bank, you can't receive it. But I want to talk about how this affects social mobility in children right after we take this break.